At a college campus in Utah. Millions mourn. Charlie Kirk has been assassinated at a college campus in Utah. Millions mourn while others celebrate. America is at its breaking point. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is dedicated to Charlie Kirk. This channel only exists because we have free speech, and free speech is what Charlie Kirk lived and ultimately died for. So yesterday, Charlie Kirk was speaking at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. It was part of his America Comeback Tour, hosted by Kirk's conservative nonprofit, Turning Point USA. Just about everyone is already familiar with the format, an open debate where members of the crowd are invited to pick up the microphone and debate him on any given topic. But 20 minutes into his speech, a shot rang out. Charlie was hit in the neck, blood pouring out of the wound. He was rushed to a nearby hospital in critical condition and died shortly after. As of this recording, his killer is still at large. This is after the FBI managed to detain the wrong suspect not once, but twice. Are you kidding me? At a public event in an age where everyone has a phone and is recording everything all the time, we still don't know. You'd think with eyes like that, Kash Patel would be better at spotting an active shooter. Now, while the shooter is still at large, we can probably guess what his motivations were. Naturally, MSNBC raised its own theories.
We don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration.
I just can't with you people. At least Utah Governor Spencer Cox called it for what it is.
I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination.
Yeah, obviously. You don't take a shot at one of the most high-profile conservative influencers in the country because you don't like his haircut. But regardless of who the shooter was, this all seemed kind of inevitable. For years, political divides in America have been growing deeper and deeper, with escalating rhetoric and escalating violence. In 2017, James T. Hodgkinson, a 66-year-old volunteer for the Bernie Sanders campaign, shot up a congressional baseball game. He was gunned down by police, but only after injuring 4, including then-Republican House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. In 2019, self-described Antifa Willem van Spronsen firebombed an ICE detention center in Tacoma, Washington. He was shot and killed by police. Then, of course, we saw the fiery, but mostly peaceful, George Floyd riots in 2020, wherein dozens of people were killed and which cost billions in damage across the nation's cities. In 2024, there were 2 attempts on Trump's life. And as recently as July, around a dozen anti-fascists set an ambush at an ICE facility in Texas, shooting a police officer in the neck. Now, to be fair, it's not just Republicans on the receiving end. In June, Vance Bolter, an evangelical Christian prepper, killed a Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband, injured another 2, and apparently had dozens more Democrats on a list of targets. Charlie Kirk's assassination is just the latest incident in what feels like a pattern of increasing political violence in this country. While most are mourning Kirk's death, plenty are celebrating. In their view, a right-wing extremist was taken out.
Do you support his death?
I do.
You support his death?
Charlie Kirk.
You support Charlie Kirk being killed?
Yes, I do. Do you support a Nazi?
Would you shoot somebody like Charlie Kirk?
I would have killed him myself.
But Charlie Kirk was anything but a Nazi. Nazis burned books. Nazis were not known for promoting open debate. Charlie Kirk was a moderate conservative in every sense of the word. Actual right-wing extremists weren't huge fans of his. Nick Fuentes originally became famous by trolling Charlie Kirk back in 2019 over his relatively lax views on immigration. Remember that line about stapling green cards to college diplomas? That was Charlie Kirk. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk who was assassinated yesterday. This was also an assassination of his ideas. Even if you didn't particularly like Charlie Kirk, he was the last big figure who still believed in the free and open exchange of ideas. And he knew that without that, Americans would stop talking and start shooting.
What is so important to our country is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
And that violence is just getting started. That guy who said he'd shoot Charlie Kirk himself? Well, he got a little taste of conservative backlash. Meanwhile, another protester at a vigil for Kirk drove through the crowd on a scooter yelling "F Charlie Kirk" and was swiftly beaten by the crowd. MSNBC, I know, again, blamed Charlie Kirk for his own murder.
He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
That